Thank you everyone for coming to Building on Zircuit A Hackathon Introduction. And so I'm just going to give you a quick introduction about what it means to be talking about Zircuit at this hackathon. I'm going to cover three things. What a great hackathon project is at large, what Zircuit resources you might want or need, and a little bit about our prizes. I think that's why most people will listen to this talk. So first, what is a great project? A great project in my mind, and I think the mind of the judges at Zircuit, which happens to be me this time, generally solves a problem. Hackathon problems serve a lot of purposes, right? Some people do it to train themselves, some of it to change the world, some of it just to win the prizes. But I think at the end of the day, any one that really solves a problem is the one that's really valuable. Now, that definition of problem is very, very variable. It doesn't have to be one that addresses a market need, but it certainly could be. Right? Real projects and real products were launched at hackathons like this one. Yours could be the next one. It could also just be something you want to do to overcome some technical challenge, whether that's you personally struggling to trade things on different networks, or an interface or integration between two systems that currently is giving you a lot of friction in your day-to-day development or user experience. And finally, the last problem might be you, in that you're inexperienced and you want to learn something about it. I think either way, any of these problems is worth solving. And I think the best way to think about if it's a good enough problem to really tackle, to especially get prizes, is determine if it's something that you're going to be thinking about when you leave this building. It's very easy to build something over the next 2 or 3 days, however long this is. And on Sunday, I guess it's only 3 days, come to me and say, hey, I've got this really cool idea, I think I built something, and then move on. I think the best projects are something that remains in your mind or my mind for days or weeks or months or years to come. And I think as long as you do that and you understand what problem you're trying to solve, you're going to be successful even if you don't get a prize, but I hope you get a prize. With all of that in mind, don't over-engineer your solution. There's a lot of buzzwords in tech and in this space. Don't throw things in just for the sake of doing it. Don't try to target multiple sponsors just for the sake of trying to win many prizes. No, have a well-defined goal, don't over-engineer it, and stick to one use case and doing it really, really well. Showing that you're competent in tackling one feature is a lot better for me as a judge to see that you can build all the other features than if you just try to sort of make a stew of different features using different things. And when you do go to solve that feature, think really carefully about how you're going to do that. First, you may want to look at various tech stack options and be attracted to a lot of them. A lot of things like to use AI, but do you really need AI? Right? There's situations where a regular expression can do the job, or you can just hard code some stuff. When you go to use things like blockchain or other things, justify it. This is a Web3 hackathon. Probably you're going to use a blockchain. Certainly, if you're trying to win a Zircuit prize, you're going to use a blockchain. That being said, if you're doing something that can be replaced with a static database because you don't have trust issues with people and decentralization doesn't matter, think about that, right? Maybe that's still a good project. Maybe you still want to hack it, but maybe you're going to be less excited about the prizes. But I think even if you did that, you'll have an easier time going forward with this product or project when it's done, whether or not you get prizes. And then validate your idea and listen to people. Talk to other people, get a feeling that actually this is a problem point for not just you. There's been a lot of times where people will say, I really don't know how to do this. There's no solution out there. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a project over there. They're doing exactly what it sounds like you need. Go check them out. And it's really upsetting because they wanted to build this really exciting thing, but I just said, someone solved this problem. As a former academic, I also know that it's really rough when you have an idea and you think it's interesting to solve, and then someone says, here's the result, and it's done. That is really frustrating, but you also want to make sure that if that's not the case and your project is worth solving, that you have some people who like it, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be everyone, depending on the type of problem you're solving. Some are very technical, some are very personal. Not everyone will say that's a problem I have or that's a problem I need solved, but some should, right? It shouldn't just be you in an echo chamber, because I think that might be too local, might still be worth doing, but it might be very hard to think about going forward. And I think good projects should not be forgotten. Along those lines, listen to feedback. Some people will say that sucks. Some people are wrong. Some people will say that sucks, and those people are right. Don't listen to everyone without thinking about that information critically. There will be some people who give you valid criticisms or say you could do this simpler or you could do this better. And sometimes you just can't do it over the next 3 days because the simpler solution is harder to engineer, if that makes sense. But maybe, there's a simpler solution down the road, but over the next 2 days, you have to get the hard solution. Or vice versa. Maybe, you're doing something hard and there really is an easy solution that you can use to accelerate this. So listen. Don't necessarily take everyone's feedback into account. If you are getting feedback from a judge and you care about that prize, maybe listen to them a little bit more. But certainly, be a collaborative builder, because ultimately, if you're building in this space that's largely permissionless and largely open to everyone, understanding other people's needs might be very valuable, right? You might build for one particular wallet and find that your biggest users really love a different wallet, and that is like something you can change, for example, that's pretty easy, but you wouldn't necessarily know if you didn't talk to people. Admittedly, though, time is limited. You only have a couple of days. Don't necessarily go around all day just talking to people about ideas, but turn to your hacker next year, get a coffee break, go to the water cooler, that type of thing, and say, hey, I'm building this. What do you think? And they might say it's good, they might say it's bad, and you have to reflect critically on that, but I think it's valuable. That being said, if someone does talk to you about an idea, don't steal their idea. I don't think that's the goal of this, and I'm not trying to encourage that type of behavior. Be reasonable humans. And finally, I think the best projects at this hackathon are going to be built on Zircuit. Zircuit's a zero-knowledge roll-up on Ethereum. We do a lot of cool stuff. The basic stuff is that we are performant and cheap. We have 2-second block times. Transactions are very cheap, less than a cent in most cases, and we're totally EVM compatible. So everything you want to build on Ethereum, you can build on Zircuit for a lot less money, and certainly a lot cheaper than on the mainnet itself. And you can always use our testnet, so it'll cost you nothing, and you can get testnet tokens via various faucets, including one through the ETHGlobal Hackathon website. But beyond those unique features, which you might have from other places, we are unique in that we have sequencer-level security. So we have systems built into our sequencer that will filter out malicious transactions. So if you're building a DeFi protocol, or you're otherwise concerned about your users' funds or accuracy of your code because you don't want hacks, we have a system that's built in to quarantine transactions that are going to do damage to your app or your users. Hacks should not exist on Zircuit. That's our purpose-built mission. We don't want that. So if you're building something with large financial incentives, or you're building something that's risk-adverse, consider Zircuit for this reason. This is something no one else will offer you. This is something that only we have. It's very, very effective. And if you have any feedback on that or questions, or you want to learn more, I could give 20 minutes of talking just about that topic, but I can't do it right now because I have only so much time, and I want to talk about the prizes still. So do all of this, and utilize the unique functionality if you can. There's actually no SDK, and there's nothing you need to do, so don't be frightened by this AI integration. It just works out of the box. But as I said, great projects are also ones that win prizes, so let's talk about the prizes, which might be why you're here. But before we do that, I'll give you a little bit of a hint about what Zircuit documentation and resources you need. So for documentation, your go-to place will be docs.zircuit.com. It should be up to date. If it's not, because we have been developing, and we also are rebranding, so if you go to zircuit.com and it doesn't look like my green cats, please don't be scared. But if you see anything on the documentation that is out of date or needs to be updated, for example, here I see ZK EVM, that has changed, so that's already gone, that's how old this slide is, let me know and we'll fix it. Part of us being here is to get users on board and to get you excited about Web3. Another part is to get feedback from myself, just like I want to give you feedback when I'm judging your product. Otherwise, to connect to the network, it should be as simple as changing the endpoint. Your wallets might have it already in. If not, put the endpoint there and put the block explorer and chain IDs. It should work out of the box. Any issues here, I definitely want to hear about it. Please let me know. But it is literally these 4 or 5 symbols that should need to change between Zircuit and any other EVM compatible network that you're used to. So it's not hard and should be very easy. We're really proud that we also built out a custom block explorer. While it might not be exactly like Etherscan, we think it's better in a lot of ways. It was built unique for that sequencer level security. We had to put that somewhere. And it's a little bit built for L2s that use zero-knowledge proofs, so you might see things like where proofs are being posted and things like this. But nonetheless, this is your main resource, and if you have any concerns about that, also feedback. But it should work and have all the core functionality that you'd expect on anything else. Bridging, if you don't get tokens on Zircuit through the faucet directly, certainly on Sepolia you can bridge or from mainnet. We also have other bridges, but we have a canonical bridge that you can always use. And this is the URL, bridge.zircuit.com, really easy to use. Faucets I already touched on. ETHGlobal has one. I think it's probably the best place. If you need more, come talk to me. I'll be at a booth. I may be AFK a little bit, but if I'm there and you say, hey, I need more Sepolia ETH or Circuit ETH or Circuit Testnet ETH, let me know. If you want to go live on mainnet, you want a little bit of ETH to do that, I might be able to help you there. I don't necessarily want to say that on a record, but come see me if you really think mainnet's the place to be. All right, so purpose of this particular this particular talk is the prizes. A lot of you are probably here to see what the judges, in this case me, wants from you guys. So there's 3 categories, and I'll talk about it. But generally speaking, these requirements exist everywhere on all 3 of those, and I think they're pretty reasonable. If they're not, let me know. They're not necessarily strictly hard. If you miss 1 or 2 things, you're probably not going to be disqualified. But what we'd like to see is some smart contracts. We're building a Web3 thing. Those should be deployed on Zircuit or Zircuit Testnet, and they should be verified via our block explorer. This should be a straightforward process. Some code, obviously. You're building something with code. Let's see the code. It should be open source. And then we should have a README describing what you're doing. And I think it's very straightforward. I just want what you've done, why you integrated Zircuit or how you integrated Zircuit, who you are, what's your background, was it your first time building something or are you experts? How do I actually test it to make sure the code works? If something doesn't work and you expect it to work later, say that. I understand that there's only a couple of hours to hack. Like, it's a very short period of time. I'm a human. Treat me, as a human, and you can give me commands and say, I would have built this, but I can't, et cetera, et cetera. Also, come show me your project at the end of the week. But anyways, that's another story. If you have time or you want to pitch this, you can also do a video demo or a slide deck. One thing that isn't strictly in scope for this talk is we have a grants program at Zircuit, so if things go well here and you want to get even more money, come talk to us about that. It's a different system. But having a slide deck or the feedback from these hackathons can help you a lot there. And then deploy the stuff. So what do we have this time around? We have $10,000 in prizes. Apologies if you checked earlier and it's only $8,500. It's in fact $10K. And it's split amongst 5 winners and 3 categories. First one is best project. I think this is actually incorrect. I believe it's supposed to say best DeFi project. Check the official website for the prize, but I'm pretty sure it's best DeFi. The good news is this description is otherwise more or less exactly the same. I just need some application that works, in this case with some DeFi. So put some stable coins in there. It's pretty easy to do. Have a well-defined target audience. Is it DeFi that does some particular type of yields? It does some type of loans? Is it an integration with Uniswap before? Have some ideas. And then do it very well. And that's totally subjective, admittedly, but we'd like to see new ideas if possible, right? If you have a game changer, that's huge. But if you can't do that, because new ideas are very, very hard, something that you've improved upon makes sense, as long as you can tell me what you improved upon. If you're just forking something, this is not the best prize category, but there is a prize category for that. This one is accurate. I apologize for the last slide. Best use of account abstraction. We were really proud to have support for Pectra as soon as Ethereum, more or less. I think we were a couple days behind, maybe a week behind. Nonetheless, we put EIP 7702 support there, which is probably now par for the course on most L2s. But I think it's an underutilized area. I think people talked about account abstraction for years and years before these EIPs got included, and now it's here and no one's building EIP stuff. So I would like to see some EIP 7702 integrations on the chain, because I think that validates the community effort, if not Zircuit's efforts to build it out. The downside here is that depending on who you use as a paymaster in some 7702 integrations, Zircuit might not be listed. If you use some wallet that has a preferred network, maybe it's not there. But there are command line instructions listed on the bounty description, or the prize description, that you can check out. And we have seen people develop really successful AA-based approaches in past hackathons, despite this limitation. Now, I really hope that's not a limitation. And so my last category, for which is only one winner, is to overcome all of those limitations. Zircuit has been around for a year and a half. We're really proud of all the work that we've done. I think we're fairly popular, but if you look at L2Beat, we're not number 1. Let's get to number 1 so that every time that anyone has any tool that says deploy on a network, Zircuit is a default option. I know there are tools out there for which Zircuit is not a default option, and I want that to change. So I want you to put Zircuit into that. If you find a tool that says open a PR so that the endpoints of Zircuit is there, that's as simple as we need here. It can be 5 lines, just put the endpoints and the block explorer, and that could be the winner. If you want to do something more involved, like somehow connect something in some way that requires more code, also good. But the purpose of this prize is really to make sure that if there's a tool out there connecting to a blockchain that you have the power to modify because it's open source, make sure Zircuit's there so that we can have Zircuit everywhere. I think that's incredibly necessary for you. So in this case, I really don't need novelty. This also includes forks. If you go on our chain and your DeFi protocol is open source, your favorite one, sorry, it's open source and it exists on another chain, but it does not exist on Zircuit, fork it, deploy it, that counts. This is the category for which novelty is not there. If you want to improve on it, I think you should try for the better DeFi projects. But really, this is about making sure that if there's any libraries, codes, or tools that you would normally use on another blockchain, but Zircuit doesn't have, we want to fix that. And I know what some of them are, and I'm working on some of them, but I know you guys deal with way more tools than I do. So help me help you. And that's it. So if you have any questions, I'll be at the booth. I have a couple engineers here. Documentation link is there. Feel free to reach out personally on email at this. Otherwise, I'll jump really quickly to the front so that if you ever have any concerns, hit me up on Telegram over the weekend. Just say, hey, I'm at the hackathon, I have an issue. And either I'll come by the booth to see you if I'm not there, and if I can do that, or I'll give you the answer on Telegram. If not, I'll point you to someone on our Discord, and we always have people on call to make sure the network's fine. Someone will answer a question very quickly for you. So thank you very much, and I hope you have a great hackathon, and I hope you win some prizes. That's it. We're done. Any questions? Yeah.
No, I mean, we have time for
Okay. If anyone has any questions. I mean, it could. So it's meant to stop hacks that would also have been pushed through a paymaster or using an account abstraction-based approach. But the AI is sort of oblivious to the type of transaction, rather the outcome of the transaction is what it looks for.
Okay, thank you.
Hi. That sequencer layer thing you mentioned.
Yeah, sequencer level security.
Yeah, sounds very interesting. Can you give me just a little bit more detail?
Yeah. So we built in an AI that's been trained on years and many blockchains, like billions of transactions over the last 6-8 years. I don't know how long it is now, where we had all the transactions that made your favorite rec.news hack happen. And we said, those ones are really bad. We don't want those on our chain because I don't know what a hack is. You probably have a different definition than I do, but we can all agree if it makes it to rec news, someone lost a lot of money and a lot of people are really upset. So we took all these transactions, 6 billion of them, said the ones that made those news entries are really bad. Let's stop having hacks like those. And we trained a model to make sure that it'll catch outcomes like that, and it'll stop those types of hacks. And we know it's effective actually because we can have the same system, which we built out with partners, looking at other blockchains, and they detect those hacks in real time. So we can validate that it works. So we would have been able to stop the balancer hack on our network, or at least a significant portion of it, because the AI actually flagged that as a bad network or a bad transaction. But balancer wasn't on our network, so I couldn't stop it and I couldn't do anything about it. It's that effective. It's 99.99% accurate. If you get falsely flagged as a hack, so you're honest, but it's not a hack, you'll be released from quarantine typically within 15 to 20 minutes, and your thing will work. So maybe for the most high-frequency trade, that's a problem. But honestly, stuff that's pretty basic generally doesn't get flagged. I think somewhere, we've had maybe 13 million transactions in the last year on our network. We've had maybe less than 500 false positives. So that rate of error is like really, really low. And we'll always improve it and all of that. But for now, it's like a strict benefit for almost everyone.
Nice. Thank you.
Any other questions?